Growing up, I knew I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. There was a sense of business in me, right from the time I was a young little girl. Just to give you a little background of it, I grew up in a very small, neat, and humble background. My family actually still is a very close-knit family, and I grew up with a lot of values. My father is a primary school teacher by profession, and I'm glad he's here in this audience today. But apart from his main profession, I watched him hustle a lot and do a lot of things that today we would call hustling. My father tried everything. You know, the way we try our hands in any little business that comes. And I remember when we were small children, he would want us sometimes to go to this particular shop that he had. Day one, we would go, it's a cafe. The next day we go, it's a hardware. The next day we go, he's selling something else, totally different. So he tried it all. And we watched all of this. He even got into matatu business. Yeah? He can bear me witness. So we saw him try and fail and keeping up at it. So I think this entrepreneurship spirit sort of hit me and got into me at that point so much so that when I joined high school, and this, I know this is a cliche because a lot of people say it, but I remember the first amount of pocket money that he gave me during the first term. I went to Kikuyu. Kikuyu was the nearest shopping center to my school. And I bought a box of biscuits. And I came back and I sold it at almost twice the price. So when I went back home, I didn't ask him for pocket money. And he wondered, where are you getting this money from? So I told him, I'm just doing what I have seen you do, what I have learned from you. And that is how entrepreneurship sort of got into me. Nevertheless, I grew up in a very systematic environment. And the norm back then, even now, still is that a young girl as intelligent as I was, by then I was intelligent. I won't even be humble and try say that I was not. I was a very intelligent child. So the norm was that go through the normal procedure. Linda, go to school, work hard, join high school, go to college, graduate, get a degree, get a job, then rise up through the ranks and become a CEO. That was the norm. And I wasn't going to deviate away from that. No way was I going to do that with my father as the head of the family. So I went to school and I worked really hard. I went to Mbita. Our school was in Mbita. That is in the former South Nyanza, which is currently Homa Bay District. And I worked so hard and I was able to join Alliance Girls High School. You should clap. And then from Alliance Girls High School, I see a Busharian in the crowd. Yeah, from Alliance Girls High School, I qualified and went to Strathmore College, University, and I studied a bachelor in commerce. At that time, I didn't think much about studying business. I just knew deep inside me that I wanted to do something business-related. So I had no qualms about it, but I studied really hard, so much hard that when one of the big four, actually 3 of the big 4 audit firms, those of you who are in accounts may know that, they came and they were scouting for guys to join their audit firms. I got a job even before I graduated, and I joined PricewaterhouseCoopers as an internal auditor. So when I joined PricewaterhouseCoopers, I was ecstatic. My dad was happy. I got a job. The first time, my first salary, I was earning like 50K. I was a millionaire. I remember, I think I bought lunch for everybody at home. I sent money to a lot of people. Then I became broke again. But that was my world. So I was living what was the norm. I was living what I had been accustomed to. That is what I had been taught. So I got into audit, and I loved audit. I loved what I was doing. I really enjoyed it at the point when I got in. Nevertheless, something in me, I kept feeling an urge that, Linda, what you're doing, this is not enough. You know the way you're in a profession, but you're a bit unsettled about it. You feel like you can do more and you can do better. So during this, the audit procedure is that you would sit down with the CEO of a company like Mr. Sunil Shah here, and he would take you through the procedure. He would take you through what his company is about. You get an understanding of what the policies and systems that a company runs on. You assess this, see what the risks and the loopholes are, and then come up with a solution, mostly financial or accounting solutions. So during this process, and I was really good at it, when we got to interact with some of the founders of these companies, and they would share their experiences, they would share what they went through, the challenges, just like Mr. Sunil has shared, what you go through to get to the point where the business is stable. Because sometimes we see businesses, but we don't understand what the owners go through, yeah? So I got to get an understanding on this, and I marveled. I was happy. I was like, this is what I should be doing. I should be having something where the auditors are coming to me to ask me, Linda, how did you do it, you know? And this really got into me so much such that one day I woke up in the morning and just tendered in my resignation letter. My father could not believe it. He was livid. He's like, Ati, what have you done? Like, where are you going? What are you going to do after this? At that time, I didn't even know what I was going to do. I just knew I wanted to do something else, and that was something in business. So incidentally, at around this time I was getting married. I happened to have had my wedding here in Kisumu. That is because I grew up in this town, I was born in this town, and my family has lived here for over 15 years. So during the process of planning for my wedding, I realized we did not have enough event planners around. And that is how I got into business, just like that. And it was easier to do business in Nairobi because that is what I had been used to, at least until that point. But there is something about making a difference amongst your people. You understand it when you have gotten into it. And sometimes I'm not even able to explain it. But there's some sort of satisfaction that comes in when you see your own community grow from very low stages, and you see you have uplifted and changed the lives of those around you through employment. And we got into business. I didn't have money. I didn't have capital. So I approached a few of my family members, and they came in. I really thank God for that. And we were able to get some capital, and we opened up shop and began. So that is how GNL Events was born. And during the process of running the business, we had a lot of challenges, financial issues, there were cash flow issues, there were times when, you have staff issues that you deal with, and you sort of just have to find a way of keeping on. And I had a focus for this. One time I attended a workshop organized by GOE, Growth-Oriented Women Enterprise. And they said that the best way to grow your business is look at it as it is, assess the existing functions, and then see which of these functions you're able to outsource. See which of these functions you outsource that you're able to produce in-house. So I had to assess my business at that point, and I realized the best way of expansion then, because we outsource a lot of grounds for events, we outsource a lot of service providers, catering and what have you. So that is how I got into hospitality, and we added that onto our asset portfolio. And that is how Twiga Sanctuary Resort was born. I got into the hotel industry now, and we were able to, at that time, still there was no money. When I was acquiring that business, I walked from bank to bank, and they turn you down. These bankers who are sitting here telling you that we don't go asking for money, they need to know. Sometimes we actually go, but they don't have enough confidence. Maybe it is just they do risk assessments, so I would not. But then there are genuine people who actually need you to partner with them, and some banks will not even look at you twice. Yeah? So that is something that even you banks as partners and stakeholders of us in this industry should be able to adjust and find ways of amending. Nevertheless, we found our way through. Again, our family stepped in. I really thank my father for that, because he's a very encouraging person, and he will do anything it takes to see his children succeed. So he stepped in, and we got some money, and we were able to operate. And then later again, we got an opportunity to purchase an existing restaurant within the CBD. It's called Farm Kitchenette Restaurant. So up till this point, things were okay, and we were running just fine. Until the political season came about. Do you know, this? I just want you to relate to my story, especially those of you who are in business or even thinking of getting into it. So the whole of 2017 was a very slump year. The economy was slacking. Nothing seemed to be picking up. Events, there are none, hazifanyiki. And I'm glad there are some event planners here in the room who understand. Some of my colleagues who we share and talk with, yeah? Dorcas, Inda, I see you. So nobody wants to commit to any event. In the hospitality sector, you'd go a whole week without getting a client in any of the rooms. At the restaurant, when calls for demos are done, you close the whole day. Like they just say, leo tunaenda kwa streets. That day you're not able to open at all. So the business took a nosedive. All of them, all the businesses took a nosedive. And it was during this time that I was acquiring the restaurant. So I had thought that I have experience in this. I've done a lot of acquisitions, so this should be easy. And thankfully, the banks now were a bit more receptive because now I had a history with them. And we had banked quite a bit. So getting the money now was not a problem. But repaying it back now became hell. You see a call from your banker and you shrink because you don't have money and you actually don't have it. And there's nothing you can do. I have exhausted all my resources. I remember sitting down with my family and I told them, now, if you people can't give me money, I am going to stop and I'm going to close this down. Yeah? And some of them actually urged me. Some of my family members actually said, anyway, just take a break, just let it be. Just let it be. I almost shut down. It became impossible to operate. And I don't know how much more I can stress this so that the point gets home, but I believe you understand what I'm saying. But something kept me going. Something kept me going. Something kept me waking up every morning. One time I went to the restaurant and one of my staff members came to me. And she's a widow. She has a child who is a student at Lyons High School. So she told me, Madam, naona biashara ni mbaya but usifunge. Ama ulikuwa unaonaje? Unataka kufunga? So I asked her, meaning, Madam, I know business is bad, but please don't close down. Then she asked me, have you been thinking of closing down or shutting this business? And I told her, what do you think? She said, if you shut down, sijui tutafanya aje. Translated as, I don't know where I would start for her. At that point, I realized these businesses had grown bigger than me. There was the lives of, I have a total of about 30 staff members. And there are these 30 staff members whose lives, hopes, and aspirations are pegged onto the success of this business. It was bigger than me at that point. And at that point, I realized, Linda, then you have to do everything it takes to make this thing succeed. You can't let these people down. And that is what I love about my people, Kisumu people. That is why I chose to come and do business in this town. There's a lot of vibrance. There's a lot of passion amongst Luos. And we are mistaken for being, some of my friends ask me, why you Luos, why are you so angry? You're just angry at everything. When there's a call for demo, you're the first people to pick stones and go to the streets. But we are misunderstood. And I have seen the flip side, both sides of the coin. I have seen the passion that these employees and staff members put into their work to see it succeed. They are the ones who would come and tell me, after a whole day we have closed down and we have not sold anything, they will come and tell me, Madam, ni saa 10, tufungue tu, angalau tuuze hata 5,000, And that would sort of encourage me. And I realized then their hopes are pegged onto the success of this. So then we have to make a difference. We have to see this succeed. We have to see this work. Because ultimately, entrepreneurs have to stick it out. Because it's not about you. It's about the people whose hopes and aspirations you represent. And so we continued, and we continued. And how did I get out of this? The first thing I did was sit down with my bank. And I thank God for that. Because I have a good relationship with their financiers. I sat down with them and renegotiated the terms of the payment. And I told them, clearly, I can't go and steal money, but give me a payment plan. Let us write it again. Let it be 3/4 of what we had agreed per month, yeah, or maybe half of it. And we were able to reduce it, and I thank God for that. Number 2, I sat down with the suppliers because we have a lot of, when you run a business, then there's other people who depend on your business indirectly. So these suppliers, I had to sit down with them and tell them, do not stop supplying us. I know we are back in payments for a number of months, but Let us extend the credit period and let us allow us to pay you even after 2 months. But for sure, we shall work and clear this debt. I thank God for them because they agreed, and we worked on that. Number 3, I had to sit down with my staff members. We were back in salaries for close to 3 months. Close to 3 months. You're a young entrepreneur budding, you don't know where to get money from. There was no way I could get money from. So I sat down with them and told them, listen, I understand that your hopes are here, but I also do not want to. So work with me. I can't do this by myself. And you run a business, you know that your employees are your greatest assets. Yes? They are happy, you're happy. They are motivated, your business is motivated. They are rejuvenated, your business looks good. So I sat down with them and told them, listen, kindly just give me some time. Allow me to pay half of your salaries every 2 months. Yes? So that every 2 weeks in a month. So in 2 months, we would have paid them about 3 times. Yeah? So we were able to work that out. And I really thank God because they are an understanding lot. That taught me one thing. Relations with all stakeholders in the business is key. You never know where your next source of help is going to come from. You never know who you will need to be more understanding as you run that business. So have a good relationship. Be somebody of integrity. Be somebody of your word. It could be your family, who you run back to anytime you have a problem. It could be your employees, your staff members, who you may want to go to occasionally and ask them, please understand. But you see, it is their right to be paid. So they're doing you a favor by even accepting that you pay them in bits. But that, again, depends on how you relate with them. So that is one major lesson that I learned at that point. Ultimately, things are getting better. The economy is slowly picking up. And I really thank God for that because we are not where we want to be, but at least we are not where we used to be. Yeah? And I know that with time, we are going to get out of it. But one thing I want us to get, if you have not heard anything I have said, as a young entrepreneur, do not forget that ultimately what you do should be bigger than you. It should get to a point where your service to others is not just for you to make money, but it is to the benefit of those other people. Number 2, as I have said, have relations with people. Have good relations with these people. You never know where your help would come from. Number 3, do not be afraid to ask for help. Those days I used to want money, I would ask anyone on the street. And my friends know, I would stop you and say, you have an extra 100,000 you can lend me, I'll give you after this. You know, and sometimes you don't even know where that money comes from. But you never know who God has lined up amongst those people to be in a position to help you at that time. So do not be afraid to ask for help. Number 4, resilience and focus is key. Please do not forget that. If God has put an idea into your heart and into your mind, then work towards it. A lot of people will say that the universe will conspire positively, you know? But I say there's a God in heaven. There's a God in heaven who sees these situations and opens up doors that work in your favor at that particular time. Kisumu is a beautiful county. I love this town. I'm not moving out of this town anytime soon. Kisumu is such a beautiful place. There's so much, and when I talk to young people and they come, okay, it's not like I'm old, but when I talk to young people, and they want to quit after 6 months. That is why we don't have many businesses surviving 6 months post-inception. Because of the persistence, we give up too fast. Resilience, we don't have it. Yeah. But here, Mr. Sunil Shah's story. 40 years doing the same thing, producing bread for you and for me. You know. So that is something that is really positive that can encourage each and every one of us. So let us not give up on this town. Let us not give up on our people. Let us make a difference amongst ourselves. Don't leave. And I'm glad he spoke about it. Don't leave to go and do businesses in other town. This is the largest market in the entire Western Kenya, the entire country. There's so much that can be done. And our people are amongst the best, the brightest, the most intelligent, the most passionate. Employ these people. Let us make a difference in our own county. Let us rise up. Kisumu, let us rise up. Thank you.